In today's show, the Blazers get their most satisfying win of the season on the road in crunch time against the Clippers. Let's talk about how they did it and how everyone got involved. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making the show your first listen. Coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're talking about a fun win over the Clippers. Blazers win 106-105 in a game that came down to the final possession. I guess technically the penultimate possession, but it came right down to it. This was the most satisfying win of the season for me. I think as if you're a fan of this team, this was the win to appreciate most fully because the whole squad had to get involved. Everybody basically who touched the floor gave them positive minutes that they really needed, and there were contributions across the roster that pulled out a game. That came down to one bucket. We're going to do our fastest recap in the West. We'll talk about how everyone got involved. Deandre Ayton had some big moments late. We saw some new wrinkles from Chauncey Billups. Rayan Rupert probably had his most significant minutes in a Blazers uniform. Both point guards did their thing. Kris Murray did it. We're going to get into everybody. Let's do what we do, though. Fastest recap in the West. Clippers led by 10 in the first quarter and 24-26 after one, but this looked like briefly that it was going to get away from the Blazers. They made a habit of this, that they take about 3 minutes to sort of get into games and to be able to score points. It doesn't come easy early for them. They've kind of always been this way, but they're scrappy and good enough on defense this year that it doesn't matter quite as much. But Clippers led by 10 in the first quarter, but the Blazers said, nah. Closed the deficit, only down to 24-26 after one. And then the Blazers blitzed them in the second quarter. I think the bench played pretty darn well for the Blazers in the second quarter. Sans Donovan Clingan, who picked up 3 fouls in his first less than 4-minute shift. I don't really... there's no such, Donovan Clingan can just play until he fouls out. He can just keep, if he's only going to play 7 minutes, he can probably pick up 4 fouls in those 7 minutes. And then you put him back for his other, if he's just going to play a 7-minute shift, you just put him back for his 7 minutes and say, you're either going to play 7 minutes or commit 2 fouls. Best of luck, buddy. If he's gonna play such limited minutes, there's really no such thing as foul trouble. But I thought, other than Clingan, who kind of struggled in his first shift, the Blazers played well in the second quarter, and they played well despite Avery Simons didn't play particularly well. Jeremy Grant didn't play particularly well. But pretty much everyone else on the roster was kind of making it happen. I thought Scoot had a really nice second quarter. I think Scoot was the Blazers' best point guard in the first half, and that is a luxury they have. It seemed at the time, watching this game live, problematic. Scoot's their best point guard. This is messy. Then Anthony Simons had his second half, but Blazers went from down 10 trailing by 10 as many as 10 in the first quarter to up by as many as 11 in the second quarter, and then it was the Clippers who closed the quarter and got a little bit closer, 54-50 at the break. You get to halftime, and I thought Kris Murray had a great second quarter. The Blazers went small briefly with Jabari Walker as a small ball center. They got some. I thought Scoot Henderson really he played that sort of good connective basketball that we're used to seeing from him. And then these two teams kind of just kept. No one got away in after halftime. Blazers led by as many as 8 in the third. Clippers led by as many as 9. You go back and forth and you make your push. But what really changed, there was 2 moments in this game in the fourth quarter. You get to the fourth quarter, 85-82 after 3, Clippers lead. This is your slowest recap in the West. I'm back on my BS, calling it the fastest recap in the West. I'm going to take 4 minutes to do it, but it's the game. I want to set the stage a little bit. I used to not believe in recaps. Now I believe in them wholeheartedly. Clippers in the first 75 seconds of the fourth quarter, jump out to an 8-point lead. And it kind of felt like they were going to lose contact a little bit. Felt like, this could be a little bit dicey. And then the Blazers charged back on a 10-2 burst, all points coming from Rayan Rupert and Donovan Clingan. I'll touch on that in a moment. But that's a huge stretch to open the fourth quarter. This team, it's like they've been grimy all night and hung with it. But they got a nice third quarter boost from Anthony Simons, but they were still trailing. And then you got to rest, guys. The bench has to play for the first 3 or 4 minutes of the fourth quarter. And it felt like, they're going to, the starters are going to get back in, or the, main guys are going to get back in, and they're going to be down 11, and it's just going to be too much, right? It's going to be like, can you win the final 7 minutes by 12? Maybe not, right? But the huge stretch in to begin the fourth quarter to not lose contact. And then it was close the rest of the way. Pick it up with 1:38 to go. Deandre Ayton grabs an offensive rebound off a Anthony Simons missed pull-up three-pointer. Kind of gets caught in the paint a little bit. It looks like he's going to it looks like he's not going to get himself into a hook shot, or he's going to kick it back out, or he's going to get a defensive 3-second. Like he's got it really low down by his hip, but he kind of muscles one in that just climbs over the front rim, and the Blazers take a 1-point lead with 1:38 left. No one scored for the remainder of the game. The Clippers come down. Ivica Zubac gets a shot at the rim and gets fouled by a rotation from Deni Avdija. He misses the first one. Deandre Ayton yells audibly so you can hear him on the broadcast, "Ball don't lie." Truly a legendary moment from Deandre Ayton. Zubac misses the second one. The ball don't lie. I actually think Deni fouled him, but I like the energy. Zoo misses both free throws. The Blazers still up by 1. Anthony Simons attacks. Zoo swats him out. Swats him into hell, and they chase down the rebounds. Ball bounces around. Clippers get it back. Clippers go down, and they, Blazers send 2 to James Harden. I thought Anthony Simons did a good job of being competitive defensively against Harden late. Harden doesn't have much separation this late in his career, but Ant still did a good job on him. Ends up with Amir Coffey left wing 3 that he misses. So now the Blazers get the ball back, clock ticking under a minute, and they're going to get into what they want to get into. More on what they want to get into in a bit. But Anthony Simons attacks, and this time he gets blocked on a hard drive to the rim by Derrick Jones Jr., and the ball just pops out to the middle of the paint, right around the free throw line, and Norman Powell gets the ball. And if Norman Powell was 3 to 5 years younger, this is a game go-ahead dunk. Instead, Powell doesn't really have this crazy burst. He isn't young Stormin' Norman of his Toronto days. He's the elder statesman Norman back home in Southern California. And so he tries to do the slow down deceleration layup, get into Deni Avdija and go up for a bucket. And Deni Avdija packs him. And Toumani Camara also hustles down the court. And Toumani got like the ricochet off of the block, and it bounces off Toumani and then hits Norm going out of bounds. And the Blazers get the ball back. Okay. 29 seconds left, up 1. The Clippers aren't going to foul because they don't have to. The differential, you get to milk clock. And the Blazers do kind of they did something pretty predictable. They let Ant pound the friggin' air out of the ball. But they did something I loved, a new wrinkle. They put Deandre Ayton in the corner. Something they'd been doing a little bit in this game, at least 3 times in this game by my counts. And not only in the corner, but they ran a little pin in. I think this has another name for it. You see the Denver Nuggets run it a lot, where their big guy just sets a screen on the block so someone can take a corner 3. And Aaron Gordon sets some crazy illegal screens doing that. He's really good at it. But Toumani sets a screen on Ivica Zubac, and so Zoo can't get out to Deandre in the corner. And Anthony Simons throws a crazy off-the-dribble whip pass to DA. He gets a wide-open 3, but he misses it. This was going to be a game-sealing 3 drawn up by some new wrinkles in the Blazers offense. We've been begging for it, and game 5, it might be here. But DA misses. Clippers get the ball back with 3 seconds left. This is their final timeout, so they're going to just go for it. They try to clear the middle of the paint and throw one of those high lobs to the back side, so have Ivica Zubac seal in the middle of the paint and throw it to the far side of the rim from the sideline, but James Harden didn't get it far enough. Deandre Ayton was really physical, fought through it, gets a steal. Zoo commits a foul, but the Clippers out of timeouts elect not to foul with just 2 seconds left in the game. And that's your ball game. Blazers win 106-105. That's your slowest recap in the West. There's more to talk about here. There's a lot more to talk about. I want to talk about a couple a couple new wrinkles and developing theory I have about the Blazers offense that famously frustrates me, but I have some thoughts on it. And then we'll talk Rayan Rupert and DA and all of those things. Join me in the second segment, won't you? First, though, I want to tell you about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. And it's that time of year where you can get in on the action. All of the NFL action, because right now new customers can get $5. New customers can actually bet $5, and what you're going to get is $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So if you're watching games this weekend, if you're watching games on the game on Thursday evening, when you got a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. All right. So let's talk wrinkles first. Blazers win this game. Anthony Simons had a pretty slow start, but ended up with 25. Scoot Henderson, I thought, had an excellent first half. He had 14. Deandre Ayton had the game winner, 15 and 12, and like the box score speaks to some balance, right? You get Donovan Clingan has 7. You get seven really big ones from Rayan Rupert. You get Kris Murray made a couple buckets. Toumani Camara had 12. Deni Avdija had 13, and they win a game without Jeremy Grant going nuts, which is a really big sign. Jeremy Grant just 8 points on 3 of 14 shooting. He had a stinker, and the Blazers still won, and they won because they're tough, right? They play defense. They're going to keep themselves in the game because they're going to keep themselves in games all year because they're competitive enough on defense. When they're going to lose contact is because they just aren't a good offensive team, right? That's going to be the challenge. I don't know exactly where there's like a, I think the old adage is like, you don't know till 20 games. I think about like 15-ish games, I'll be able to say like the Blazers are X and X on defense. 5 games in, I'm not worried about team ratings or stats or anything like that. Like 20% of the Blazers games they've lost by 36 to the Warriors. Like they gave up $140 in one of their 5 games. Like I don't care what their defense suggests they are. I'll say this though. When you're watching them play, you can tell they're competitive on that end, and they put a bunch of big lineups out there that allow them to be competitive pretty much on all times on defense. What has been the challenge historically and frustratingly is that their offense is just so vanilla. But I actually have an evolving take on my vanilla comments. I think some vocal internet listeners want me to say every time that I talk about the Blazers, Chauncey Billups bad, and it's well documented my feelings on him. I don't think he's a particularly good coach. I think he's had a lot of opportunities to show that he's a good coach and hasn't done so, but I can't do this every day, every game. So here's what I'm going to say. The offense is a little bit vanilla. A lot of bit vanilla often, and sometimes it just gets really stagnant, right? And some of that is talent, some of that is screening. It's like you miss a screen up top, Deandre Ayton, the offense is going to make, you don't get that first action, you never create an advantage, right? Chauncey Billups can't make certain players play differently, et cetera, et cetera. But my evolving take here, as I get a little off track, is that it's not that the Blazers have a horrendous offense always. It's that they don't have principles that when they aren't running stuff, when they aren't actually running stuff, that they can get into good offense. So when you see it stagnate, when you see it stall out and just dribble, okay, a bad pick and roll, that didn't work, well, they'll run it again, okay, grenade late, launch a 3. Like when you see that happen is because they're not actually running plays. When they ran plays in this game, and they did a couple different things, once with Deni as a screener and DA in the corner. They alignment with DA in the corner on 3 separate occasions by my count, and then they ran a bunch of horns at the end, which is when there's 2 screeners at the free throw line, but the Blazers usually extend that. So instead of the corners of the free throw line, like at the elbows, they extend up above the arc, but the same idea so Anthony Simons comes down, he can choose. Go Deandre Ayton's way, go Toumani Camara's way, and the other 2 guys are spaced in the corners to attack off that. And that was their most effective set. When they actually run sets, when they run organized offense, the offense can generate okay stuff. Again, I'm talking about a game where no team scored in the final 98 seconds, right? The final bucket came at a minute 30 and no one scored after that. But like, my evolving take is that the problem with the Blazers isn't necessarily the offense itself. It's when they don't get a call from the bench. Their sort of unorganized offense, their random offense stinks because they don't have strong principles of cut, pass, move. But when they get into real organized offense, they get into quality looks. That's my take here. I think this was the most rewarding win of the season because, in some ways because of that, because they grinded out on defense and they just got enough out of Anthony Simons in the third and fourth quarter to make it happen. Ant scored 7 consecutive points on his own to tie the game in the middle of the fourth quarter. And I was like, okay, yeah, they're gonna have a shot because he's getting them enough offense. Of course, he got like blocked twice in the final minute 30, and so like it is. I don't want to be results oriented. I want to be more process oriented. I thought the process was okay on those plays, although like every time he's going to look to score more than he looks to pass. He made a great pass with 5 seconds left in this game, and they almost made a game winner. But it was rewarding. This game was rewarding in part because everybody was cooking. Everybody did stuff. Scoot had a really nice first half, right? Scoot was he's really good connective tissue right here. He's probably the player that gets everyone, keeps the offense the most connected in terms of just driving, probing, passing. People work off his him keeping the drive alive and drifting baseline and then screen and rescreen. Like, he seems to be the player that keeps the other 4 guys most connected of any player on the roster. But they didn't go, Anthony Simons had a good third quarter, and then they didn't go to back to Scoot in the final 5 minutes. They brought Deni back out on the court and closed with Deni. I thought Toumani was great in this game. I thought he was so competitive against James Harden. He just makes life miserable. It wasn't like 2 had a crazy good game in the box score. 3 steals, jumps out at you, but 12 points on 10 shots, 2 for shooting. It's not like a crazy 2 night, but you watch him and you feel him. I thought Deni was better in this game. He still kind of doesn't know where it's going to come on offense yet, but I think he had some nice plays in this game, and the buckets he did hit were quality. And gets to the free throw line, took 6 free throws. That's a skill that they really need. Easy buckets, they need him. I thought he was good. I thought Kris Murray had a really nice first half. He was everywhere, blocking shots, getting steals, getting rebounds. He didn't hesitate on threes. Some of the Kris Murray of earlier in the season, it's like the ball swings to him and he has to shoot it, but he doesn't. But if he doesn't shoot it, he can't play. It is worse to pass up an open look than to brick it. And I know that he's struggled from 3, and so he's feeling the bricks and he doesn't want to put another one up there, but he didn't hesitate in this game. He was aggressive on both ends of the court. I thought he had a really nice shift. And I think Rayan Rupert played the most important minutes of his career. I think this was, Rupes has played in games in the last spring, where it's like, they might win, but it isn't like, this is still the competitive part of the season for the Blazers. And this was a game that they were trying to win. And Rayan Rupert was in the game because they were trying to win. So in the first half, like I mentioned, Donovan Clingan got into a little bit of foul trouble. He, committed 3 fouls in about 4 minutes, 3 minutes and 45 seconds. And so they took him out. I mentioned that foul trouble doesn't exist, but coaching exists. They can bring him to the sidelines and be like, stop fouling, and give him some, and teach him a lesson. You can't just play with complete abandon. But in that instance, Jabari Walker played in the first half. They went a little bit small. They went the small lineup, and they Kai Jones was kind of giving them some trouble with his athleticism, and he had a blow by on DA, and so they went a little bit smaller and tried to just say, okay, we're going to play our wing heavy group, and they and they played the wings and Anthony Simons, and after a kind of a slow start, that was the best he had looked in the first half, was with that group. But in the second half, they still needed some perimeter defense, and they instead of going to Jabari next to Clingan and not having guys who can maybe attack off the dribble, multiple guys who can attack off the dribble on the court, they went to Rayan Rupert. But I say that kind of like multiple guys who could attack off the dribble. I don't know that that's what I was thinking. I was thinking like, okay, you get a little more perimeter defense. Like, Jabari is more 4-5 and Roops is more 2-3. So you're getting a wing and you're putting Kris at the 4. Like, I see what they're doing. But it wasn't like, oh yeah, they're getting another ball handler in there. But I'm telling you, the beginning of the fourth quarter was the most significant minutes, and the Blazers do not win this game without Rayan Rupert. I want to talk quickly about him, and then a light trend that is developing in the third segment. Join me there, won't ya? Still a pass for his point guard. Still Mike Richmond. Still listening to Locked On Blazers, and I'm still teasing Rayan Rupert. Okay, let's talk about it. So, Clippers go ahead by 8. Kevin Porter Jr. was horrendous. Kevin Porter Jr. so bad. He looks so bad. I haven't watched a bunch of the Clippers. I think I watched like part of their second half the other night. This is the first full Clippers game I've watched all year. KPJ looked awful. He looks so bad. But he hits a bucket. As I'm saying this, he hits a bucket. Clippers go up 8. And like I said in the first segment, there is a moment that when the lead swells to 8, like about 75 seconds into, it's like the 10:45 mark, right? Like it's very early in the fourth quarter, that it's like they might lose touch. If they get down 13, it might be over just because they don't have an explosive offense. That's not who the Blazers are going to be. They're grimy. They're going to win games by being grimy. And this game was fun because they were grimy and it worked. But they need a bucket. Rayan Rupert gets to push in semi-transition and gets a running right-handed hook. Okay, little like scoop hook layup action. Okay, Roops, really nice play. I didn't know you had that. I didn't know that. I'm sorry, sir. I have to apologize. I was unfamiliar with your game. Next trip down the floor, Rupert attacks a closeout, gets back to his preferred right hand, from the left side. So he's driving to his right, gets to his preferred right hand, gets fouled and won. Are you kidding me? Back-to-back buckets from Roops to cut into the lead. He's, I think this is the most emotion I've seen from him, yelling after the and one foul. He's hyped up. You love to see it. Misses the free throw. Blazers get the rebound, though. And what happens when you're playing with energy? The ball finds you as they show a little bit of extra wing help pulling in off the wing on Anthony Simons, who's been good in the third quarter and now back on the court, gets a little bit of attention, and Rupert steps into a clean-looking left wing 3 cash. 7 points for Roops. 7 huge ones. 2 layups and the 3-pointer, huge ones. He cuts an 8-point deficit. Clippers score, and then the Blazers come out and again drive to the paint and kick back out. And who do they kick it back out to? Donovan Clingan hits a top of the key 3, his first 3-pointer of his career, and the game is tied. From down 8, a little 10-2 burst to tie the game and not lose contact. Clippers take a timeout, and everybody puts the big dogs in to close the game. I loved it. And that's why why I called this game the most rewarding game of the season, because you get a good Scoot shift in the first half. You get a good Kris Murray shift in the first half. You get good moments from DA down the stretch, including a game winner. You got moments where you needed Anthony Simons to carry the offense because he's the creator who can go get his buckets, and he did that after a pretty slow start to this game. Chauncey Billups did some creative things. Putting Deandre Ayton in the corner, as simple as it sounds, is something Billups never did all of last season. Am I rewarding him for being 80 games late? No, but all you can do is say this is better than the past, right? And that creativity, running a horn set, getting into organized offense and calling it from the bench, running Deni as a screener, the creativity I've been begging for. It was rewarding because I thought they played smart and tough. They don't always seem tough often. Sometimes they quit and they don't seem so tough, but they seem tough often. That seems to be a defining characteristic of this team, is that they can be pretty scrappy. Occasionally they jump out of the boat, but they can be pretty scrappy. But they're not always smart. Sometimes they play stupid basketball. And that is coaches, players, everybody. Like it stems from the top down, but like they play stupid basketball. I thought they played smart basketball. I thought they played hard, and you got contributions up and down the roster, and you win a game late. It's the most rewarding game of the season. Most rewarding game of the season. Most rewarding win of the season. Sure, they beat the snot out of the Pelicans. I will say, I watched the Pelicans Warriors last night. The Pelicans look like they're in trouble. They look like a bad basketball team. For what I understand, since I watched their games on Sunday and Tuesday, it's gotten worse for them. They had a bunch of injuries following that Tuesday game, and they're heading home battered and with a whole bunch of L's after a West Coast swing. But like Sunday's game, sure it was good to win or whatever, and they won by 22, and there was garbage time. They won the game in like 45 minutes, and it was garbage time at the end of the game. But that wasn't this. That wasn't rewarding. Have to make plays down the stretch and do things. Have to win a game when it mattered. This was just a straight up fun game. This was, for me, the first true hold on to your joy moment of the season. If you're not familiar with my oeuvre, if you haven't heard that phrase before because you're new to the program, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. But it is my theory that life and basketball and fandom are fleeting. The joy is fleeting in all of those things. So when you have a moment of joy like this, hey, they played. That was a darn good game. I love the Rupes minutes. I love the Kris Murray shift. I thought, the balance of Scoot and Anfernee Simons having good games, having impactful games, maybe is the way to say that. Hold on to your joy. Hold on to it. If something brings you joy, cling to it, because we are all under the impression that joy is fleeting. So if you can't appreciate this one, do. I think this was a great hold on to your joy moment. Here is a light trend that is, I don't think it's real yet, but I have my eye on this. Blazers on night one against the Golden State Warriors, 8 of 34 from 3. They get smashed. They lose by 36. They lost by 35 when I did the podcast, but they found another point, and now it's a 36-point loss. Then, against the Pelicans, lose late, one possession game. Anfernee Simons gets blocked at the buzzer. They shoot 13 of 35 from 3. That's 37.1%. 2-point game. Smash the Pels. Win by 22. 40% from 3, 14 of 35. Get absolutely walloped by the Kings. Lose by 13, but it wasn't that close. 4 of 22 from 3. That's 18% if you're scoring at home. And then against the Clippers tonight, 14 of 33 from 3. This is the trick. Toumani hit 2 threes. Jeremy Grant hit 2 threes. Couldn't make anything inside the arc. 1 of 7, hit 2 threes. DA hit a 3. Deni Avdija hit a 3. Donovan Clingan hit a 3. Scoot Henderson hit 2 threes, both of the catch-and-shoot variety. Anfernee Simons had 3. Kris Murray had a 3. Rayan Rupert had a 3. You go on down the line, 9 dudes hit 14 three-pointers. But here's the trend. The Blazers have 2 wins. It's the games they've shot 40% from 3 and made at least 14. I'm not saying that's going to... It's not always going to come down to, did they shoot well? Or they're going to win? But often, because this team doesn't have... because this team is not going to have a bunch of variety to its offense, and they're unlikely to win a bunch of games where they don't shoot particularly well because they're not going to score in many other ways, and because their margin for error is just like going to be super slim this year because of their just general level of talent. They're grimy enough to get themselves into games, but I'm tracking this here 5 games in. What's the Blazers' record when they make 14 threes, and what's the Blazers' record when they shoot 40% from 3 in any given game? Is that going to be their defining characteristic? Is it just going to be if the ball goes in, they've got a shot, and if it doesn't, they don't? Shoot, maybe. Wouldn't that be boring? But I think sometimes the simplest part of basketball is ball go in. You can generate, you want to have good process, and I think the Blazers had better process as the game wore on in this game. But as Roy Williams, beloved Roy Williams, Carolina coach, says that every coach looks good when the ball goes in the basket. That's sometimes the trick. Okay, how about more of these shows, like one more the rest of the week, because that's what we do. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.